Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the BarnOwl Spotlight session for June. I hope you are all very well. There's still a few people joining, but I have a team in the background that will assist us to let them in. Just an official introduction from my side. My name is Lizelle Fourie. I'm the Services Manager at BarnOwl. I've been with BarnOwl for 10 years, and I will be doing the Spotlight today. I'm going to share my screen with you guys now. I am going to switch off my camera, otherwise you'll just be seeing the side of my face because I use a different screen to project off. So welcome everybody and thank you for joining. Great. So if I can just quickly see a thumbs up that you guys can see my screen at the moment, just from anybody, then we can confirm. Thank you. Thank you for the thumbs up there. All right. So for today's session, we are doing the BarnOwl's free web-based open license spotlight. Let me just move this across to my other screen. And we will be talking about embedding GRC in your organization. Now, I think the first thing that we need to start with is the types of licenses that you can get within BarnOwl. Just before I continue, I do just want to mention this is a question we often get during the spotlight sessions. This session is recorded. There will also be a write-up and we have a tip of the month on this specific topic as well. So after this spotlight session, the recording will be made available on our website with the slides that I'm going to present today and a few additional slides just for reference, and as well as the write-up. So I know this is a question that we often get, so I just want to quickly address that. So yes, the recording will be made available and there will be a write-up as well as the slides. All right, so I think let's start off then with the types of licenses that you can get within BarnOwl. So this is just a brief summary. At the end of this presentation, there will also be a link that you can go onto our website into one of our articles that we've written about the different licenses. But if you look at the license types, the one at the top is then I want to say the highest level of license that you can get with the most permissions. And that is then an audit license. And that's usually then used by administrators. Now, of course, if you do not have the internal audit module, then you would not be using a license like that. But if you have internal audit, then you would have an internal audit license. And at the top, you will see we often refer to this as well as a desktop app or rich license. Then you get just a normal audit user, which is now not an administrator, but an audit user, and they will also use an audit license, which will give them permission to go into the BarnOwl desktop app. Just below that, you then get a risk user, which is then a risk license. Again, we refer to those as a rich risk license because it can take you or allow you to go into the BarnOwl desktop app. And included in all these licenses that I've just mentioned is the BarnOwl web interface. Previously, we also referred to it as BarnOwl Eclipse. So those of you that have bought licenses, we also refer to those as light licenses. We've changed some of our wording. You would see that now as we continue with the licenses. So rich license is now referred to a desktop app license. Then we also get compliance licenses. They use the same license type as a risk-rich user. And that again also gives you access then to the BarnOwl web interface, or then previously known as BarnOwl Eclipse. And then lastly, on the screen, you will see that we get the open licenses. And these are then free licenses that we are then obviously going to discuss during today's session. Now, these licenses, I always say T's and C's apply. So T's and C's that apply is these licenses are available for everybody in your organization, but they do need to be on your domain. So the easiest way for me to always just remember what does that mean is they need to have an email address. So if it is a BarnOwl internal database that's being used, the users that can get free access there would be someone with @barnowl.co.za at the end of their email addresses. We do have a few clients that use basic authentication as well. And that is then where you have to put in a username and password. So that option is also available. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we're going to log into the web interface shortly. So the open licenses is unlimited amount of licenses. So, if you have 1,000 people in your organization, you can give all of them an open license. So they just need to exist within BarnOwl. And then again, at the bottom, you'll see there is a link. So if you want to read up a little bit more about the license types, then you can just click on that link. While I have this screen still open, I do want to mention that if you have any questions afterwards, you are welcome to, of course, contact our support desk and CC in your account manager, and we will gladly assist with any questions that you might have. And sorry, last thing that I do forgot to mention right in the beginning is at the end of the session, we will allow the microphones to be unmuted, and then we will answer some questions. And I do have my team in the session as well that will be monitoring the chat box. So if you have any specific questions as we continue, feel free to type them in the chat box. The team will assist there, or then keep them for the end of the session, and then we'll address it from there. All right, so the next thing is then the BarnOwl web interface that we're going to talk about, and this is then what we call the open licenses or the free licenses. And this helps you to embed GRC within your organization, and it helps promoting a culture of accountability and people taking ownership for results-driven enterprises. So it really helps for your teams to take accountability for their actions, or to participate within their risk registers, or to log their key indicator values. So some of the examples that I'm going to show now is, first of all, action plans. We're going to cover action plans. I think this is the feature that's probably used the most within BarnOwl. And then we're also going to look at risk and control self-assessments. We call this voting as well in BarnOwl. We will also look at the survey functionality, also referred to as checklists or assessments within the software. We will also look at the questionnaires, which are a little bit more flexible. And we're going to look at inserting key indicator values. And then lastly, we'll talk about one of our latest functions that we've added in some of our latest version 11 versions, and that is then audit findings. So these are the things that we're going to touch on today, and which forms then part of the free licenses to help you to embed BarnOwl in your organization, and not just BarnOwl, but GRC as well. So just a little bit of a summary on what we're going to touch on within each of these functions. So with action plans, we're going to look at the My Action Plan register. We will also touch on action plans by unit. We're going to look at risk and control self-assessments, so typically referred to as RCSAs. And then our surveys. Now, the surveys we can use for multiple things, and I have created 2 different examples for us. So I've created a survey like almost like a checklist from an internal audit perspective, where we can look at a satisfaction survey, or answering those specific questions that you have. And then it also ties in with the BarnOwl compliance checklist that can automatically be created, but more on that when we get there. We also can use it for our risk maturity assessments that we get from GRC Ready. But again, I'll touch on that when we get there. Then questionnaires is then a little bit more flexible, where you don't necessarily need to answer in a specific way, like with a drop-down arrow with fixed answers, but it does give you flexibility where people can type text in a text box, or there might be a tick box, or they might be able to select more than one option. And I'll do an example of that as well. Then we get our key indicators. So these key indicator values can be added by the owners of these key indicators. And our key indicators can be linked to either an objective, it's what we call a KPI, key performance indicator. It can also be linked to a risk, and that's then what we call our KRI, a key risk indicator. And it can also be linked to a control, which is then what we call a KCI, a key control indicator. And then lastly, we'll look at our audit findings. We've added a My Audit Finding Register onto the web interface. So when you have been added as an owner of a finding, you will then be able to go and add your management comments or whichever field has been enabled. Sometimes typically a root cause could also be enabled, and you can then comment that on the finding. And of course, if there's action plans linked to it, it then ties back into the action plan functionality that we'll speak about shortly. Right, so that's then what we're going to cover during the session today. I am going to navigate now to the BarnOwl web interface. So you will see when we share these slides, just to give you a little bit of an idea, we did add screenshots, of what these windows look like. But I'm going to actually go into the web interface so that you can see as I demonstrate the different examples that I've created for this session. So I'm going to quickly just jump from my two screens. Just give me one moment. All right, so this is then the BarnOwl web interface. Again, if I can just quickly get a thumbs up to just confirm that you can now see the screen again, because I'm sharing a different screen at the moment. Great stuff. Thanks, Miriam. All right, so this is then the BarnOwl web interface. The examples that I've created today is on a ABC database that we have. So we have a lot of sample data on there and testing data. And that is then where I've created some of my examples as well. And this is then the first login screen into the BarnOwl web interface. Now, there's two ways that you can log in. It depends on how your organization has been set up. Most organizations or clients of ours use Windows authentication. So what that means is you log in with the Windows username and password. It is already linked to BarnOwl in the background, so you don't have to re-enter it, and it uses all the same safety and security measures then that your Windows password makes use of. And I think most of our clients use that. You will then see your username there, and you will then be able to go and select the database from this environment drop down here. It will say select environment, and you will then go and select the correct one there. We also have clients that use a username and password. That's also what we refer to as a basic authentication. So, of course, that's then when you have to go and enter a username and then a password. Now, that is then what I'm going to use today. And the reason for that is I didn't want to log in as an administrator because, of course, administrators has all the functionalities, and they will always see a little bit more than the normal open license user. And I did want you guys to see, what an open license user would then see on their side. So I've created an open user here for us. and there's my password. I select my environment, and I always like ticking that little tick box that says remember me. Then I don't have to put in my username and password every single time. But again, that is a personal preference, and you can then, of course, either decide to tick it or not. I'm then going to click on sign in, and that will then take me into the BarnOwl web interface home screen. The first time that you log into the BarnOwl web interface, it always takes a little bit longer to load. So just bear that in mind when you go into it the very, very first time. So this is my open user. There we go. Right. Now, in the top left-hand corner on my home page, you can see this is my home page. It says home there, and it will then say welcome, and my name now is open license user, but it will say welcome Lizelle Fourie or your name and surname at the top. And on your home screen, you will then see it says, here are some items that may need your attention. Now, these are items where you have been assigned as the owner. And these are also the topics that we're going to cover then today. So you will see my action plans. So this will then show you all action plans where you have been assigned as the owner. Bearing in mind, it doesn't matter what owner type has been used. So it doesn't matter whether you are responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed, or none. That's our RACI then. If you're an owner, then it will be here on the My Action Plans on your home screen. Towards the top right, you will then also see My Votes, and these are all the votes, surveys or questionnaires that have been assigned to you, that is open and available, and you haven't completed them yet. So this is something that you need to action or that you need to complete them. Towards the bottom left, you will see My Key Indicators. This will show you all the key indicators where you have been assigned as the owner, and it will show you all the periods that are still open and have not been closed yet. So we will discuss the periods and the closing of the periods a little bit later when we touch on My Key Indicators. But you will see I have a few open still here, and I can scroll down to see a different one as well. Right. I also have a few that's overdue, so that you can see those red little exclamation marks next to them. They will say, you know, there's February, March, April, and May. I haven't done those yet, and I haven't closed the period. So it is, you know, raising a little bit of an alarm that I am behind with capturing these key indicator values. Then if I look towards the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you will see that it says My Referred Findings. So these are then the findings that the internal audit teams have raised within BarnOwl, and you have been assigned as the owner, and they've referred this to you for management comments. So you can then go and open up, get all the finding details, like all the finding fields, like standards and any evidence, you know, that has been attached. You can see all of that, and you will then be able to click on them and add your management comments. So this is then your home page, and this is then where you can see everything, like it says there at the top, that may need your attention. So I'm going to start then now with my action plans. Now, again, there's a few ways that you can access your action plans, and I will demonstrate all of them in this session. So while we are on the home screen, I will just open up my first action plan from the home screen. And to do that, next to each one of these items, so not just next to the action plans, but next to my votes, key indicators and your findings, you will find this little open button. Now that is that blue little block with the blue arrow pointing to the top right corner. So whenever you see that little icon there, it means you can open up the object from there. And I am then going to open up one of my action plans. The action plan that I'm going to open up is just this one SP. This is just a reference that I've used for the spotlight. So just ignore that one SP. But I'm going to open that one that says explore certifications and licensing options available. I can see the due date there as well. And you can see that I still have 35 days remaining to go and complete this action plan. And I can see it has not been started yet, so nothing has been done on it. Right, so I'm going to click on the open button now, that blue little block next to it to open it up, and that will open up my action plan form. Now let's look at the top of the screen. At the top, you will always see where you are. So if you're unsure, where you are in BarnOwl, which form you are in. You can see the path there at the top. We also call that the breadcrumbs. So you can see from the home page, I open up the action plan form. Underneath that, you will then see a red line, and in that red line, you will then see the action plan title. Just take note of that little back button there as well, that little arrow that can take you back. All right, so this is then the action plan, and you will see everything is locked with the exception of a few things in here. So you will see I can't go and change the title. I can't change the reference because I'm not the originator of this action plan. All right, so if I then scroll a little bit downwards, the first thing that I'm going to look at, oh, let me just see, I see everything is locked now at the moment. Just give me one moment. Just want to quickly see why. Of course, Murphy's Law has it as soon as you present something, then it's not right. Just give me one moment. I just want to quickly open up the second one here. Man, just give me one moment. I just want to see why my action plans are locked. I've done so much testing that I think I've tested myself out of my own action plans here. And then when you need to display it, then it's not, no, then you can't do it. All right, just give me one second, everybody. Apologies about that. I just want to quickly go in and refresh my permissions. Just give me one moment. Just double checking my refresh here. Like I said, I've tested everything, recreated everything, and of course, then when you do something, then it doesn't want to work. Oh, Murphy's Law. Thank you for your patience. All right, it's just refreshing. All right, it's just quickly loading again. My goodness, this is stressful. I always feel everything runs smooth in all my training sessions, and then when you present, then in front of a lot of people, then something goes wrong. But let's just quickly, just reloading it, and then just make sure that it is working now. But while it's still loading, so just touching on the action plan still, the fields that you can then change is then your action plan status. And depending on your setup within your organization, that is then what options will be there. Some people have not yet started and then completed. Other organizations have different intervals, so like not started, in progress, halfway, almost finished. So let me just quickly log in here again. So of course, then based on your framework and your methodology within your organization, that is then how it will be. I do see it has not refreshed. I really do apologize. I'm going to just quickly troubleshoot it just towards the end of this session while we do the Q&A. But I just want to quickly show you here, or let me maybe just show you from my admin side. Sorry, workaround. I always have a plan B here up my sleeve. So let's quickly do that. All right, this is then, there we go. So I'm just quickly using my workaround here. So please note that I'm currently logged in as the administrator. So you will see that these fields are not grayed out, but I'm just using that to just keep on displaying what we can do within here. All right, so the thing that the open license users will be able to change is then the status. So they will click on that drop-down arrow, and like I've just mentioned, you will then have the configuration that has been set up for your organization. So I'm going to just click on started there, started. And depending on the colors, you will see there, if I, for example, go to halfway, a different color is associated with the status. Hand in hand with your status goes the percentage complete. So you can go and change this. So if I feel I am actually 55% completed, I can also change that percentage complete. All right, then the important thing, of course, within an action plan is your progress notes that you can go and enter. So the title here is Explore Certifications and Licensing Options Available. So I'm going to add a progress note here to just say we've had an internal meeting. All right. So you will see I said internal meeting was held, and to identify all areas that will require further investigation. Let me just say investigation. And you will see I've made typing mistakes there. So we do have a basic spell checker in here as well. So whenever you see that red squiggle, you can simply right click on it and it will give you those suggestions. Or of course, you can go and add it to the dictionary. You will also see I made a comment that says refer to attached meeting minutes, which means you can go and add attachments as evidence as you add your progress notes. And you can do that under the documents button here. So if I click on documents, I can then click on upload. And you can attach any type of document. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, an image, a video, an email, and you can also go and attach multiple files. So I just want to quickly show you if I click on select files. And if I quickly just go to my desktop, and let me just quickly go and attach that one. There we go. So there is then a document attached. When I click on Save Document, you will then see it puts a little 1 in a bracket there, indicating to me that a document has been attached. And if I click on that little drop down, you will see there is the document if you want to open it up from there. All right, so as an open license user, you're taking accountability for your action. You will come and update the status as well as the percentage complete. And of course, you will give your progress. The more detailed your progress notes, the better, of course. And then I'm going to click on Save and Close in the top left-hand corner. And then when I reopen up this action plan, I'm just going to reopen it again with that open button. I do want you to see, if I scroll a little bit down, it did save my status as well as my percentage complete. But it will look like my progress notes are blank now. Now, it is there, it was saved. The reason why it looks like it's blank is it's because it's ready for your next update now. All right. So, but if you need to go and see the previous progress notes, or then, of course, if multiple owners have added progress notes, at the bottom of progress notes block, you will see that it says open notes. When I put my mouse on it, it then goes red. And if I then click on it, you will then see the latest progress note at the top. So you will then be able to see the person or the user that added it, as well as the date and timestamp, and with that specific progress note that has been added. All right, so that is then how you can go and update your progress notes, and where you will see previous progress notes. All right, the next option that is there is then the extension request option. Because I'm now the originator of this one, you will see there it says extension request is locked for me. But the extension request allows someone to go and ask for an extension on this specific action plan. It's only on this one, not for all of them. And if I then see my end date is then the 31st of July, yeah, I can see that there. And I see, oh my goodness, I'm not going to meet this deadline. You can go and request for an extension. There's two things that you will have to complete. First of all, who do you want to, what date do you want to extend it to, as well as the reason, you need to motivate it. This will then get sent to your reach user, which will be your originator, and they will then decide whether they're going to accept your extension or not. And that is then, it is sent to a licensed user, but the open license users can request that. It is an option that can be switched on or off within your organization. So it is part of your setup. So if you do not have that option, then based on your framework, it was not switched on. But if it is something that you do want to use going forward, then you can just contact your account manager, and they can then just guide you on how to set it up. All right, so that is then on the action plans. I just want to quickly make mention of, with action plans, there are email notifications that can get sent out. Again, these are configured by your organization and depending on your framework and your internal processes. It is a shared function. In other words, it is, if you switch on one email, it is applicable to internal audit, risk management, and compliance. And there are assignment emails, notification emails, reminders, consolidated emails, due date emails. So a lot of emails that can get sent out from the system as well. All right, the reach users will be able to see all the action plans, but the open licenses will only see where they have been assigned as the owner of this. I'm quickly just, I'm actually going to just, let me just open up another instance of this. I do want to just jump between my two logins, just because I have this issue now between the open user. But let me just quickly jump in there as well. All right, the other thing that I do wanted to show you as well is that when an action plan is overdue, you will then see it tells you days remaining, and you will see this one already started in 2014 and it is 3,972 days overdue. All right, so that it will always have a little minus sign in front of it. And if I then open that up by clicking on that little open button, I would be able to see the details and why it hasn't been completed and if any progress notes have been added at this stage. Right, so I just wanted to show you if it is overdue, it will still stay within your action plans there, and it will have that little minus sign in front. If it has been completed, your action plan, and it's been set to 100%, you will not see it on your home page anymore. However, you will be able to still see it from My Action Plan Register if you then filter on closed action plans as well. So on the left-hand side, under Action Plans, there's a register that says My Action Plans. And this will then show you all the action plans that have been assigned to you. And again, you can see your path or your breadcrumbs there at the top. And then on the left-hand side, again, you can open up these action plans from here. Your overdue action plans will also have that little exclamation mark in front. And if I hover my mouse over it, it says this action plan has passed its due date. All right. So this is then the action plan, My Action Plan Register. And what you can also see in here is then what it's linked to. And I just want to remind you that an action plan can be linked to almost anything in BarnOwl. It can be linked to a risk, to a contributing factor, to a control, to a key indicator, to an incident, to a finding, so action plans are very powerful functions in BarnOwl and used across all the different modules as well. All right, so that is then the action plan functionality. The next function that I'm going to look at is then the voting functionality. Now, again, I'm just going to go to my home page. So if I click on the BarnOwl logo in the top left-hand corner, that's then navigating back to my home page. And in the top right-hand corner, I will then see all the votes where I have been assigned as the owner. Right, I'm going to start off with this Spotlight Risk Self-Assessment one, the RSA. Now, before I go into this one, apologies, voting, to set up a vote, you do need a REACH license, all right, or what we refer to now as a desktop application license. And there are different settings that can be switched on and switched off when you set up these votes. So sometimes the originator or the person who creates it can allow comments or allow you to attach documents or create action plans, and sometimes not. So the REACH license user can set up these things. And the two things that we're going to look at is then from a voting side, RSAs and CSAs. So what this means is it's going to give you a list of risks that's been specified by the desktop user, and you will then be able to vote on the ratings of these risks. Now you can go and vote on the inherent ratings and residual ratings, which is impact and likelihood, if you use the manual rating option. All right, if you manually rate your residual ratings as well. If your organization's framework uses AutoCalc, then you will not be able to select residual impact or residual likelihood, but you will still be able to go and rate on your inherent impact and your inherent likelihood. The reason for that is, of course, then based on your formula that's built into the system, that will then automatically calculate your residual ratings. Right, I am currently on a manual setup, so I can rate both inherent ratings as well as residual ratings. When I open up this vote or this RSA, I will then see all the risks that have been specified in here. And again, just at the top, you can then see where you are. So I'm on cast my vote. I can then see the risk title, and then you will see next to the risk, I can then click on those blue hyperlinks where you can go and select your ratings. So I can click on that little drop down arrow, and this database is set up to use a scale from 1 to 5, and I can then go and say a 5 and a 5 as well. So my inherent impact and my inherent likelihood are both 5s in this case, which gives me an inherent rating of 25. Then I can go and select my residual rating. So I'm going to say a 4 by a 4. And again, it gives me a 16 there. Once I've rated on both the inherent ratings and the residual ratings, you will see the risk gets a little green tick next to it. And if you look at the ones below it, you will see it has red crosses showing you that I've done what I needed to do with this one. It's ready to be submitted, but these ones with the red crosses tells me I still need to do something. And when I hover my mouse over it, it tells me I still need to go and select those specific ratings. Okay, so it helps you to track what you are doing and to make sure that you've completed whatever you need to complete. Next to each one of these risks, you also have the open button. Whenever you see this open button, it means you can go and open up the object. So I can go and open up the risk vote structure, which will basically open up my risk for me. I can then see the risk structure here on the left-hand side. So it gives me a little bit of context, you know, so I'm not just thumb sucking this, but I'm actually opening up the risk and getting all the relevant information. So in your risk structure, you can see everything that's linked to this risk. You will be able to see objectives, if there's any controls linked to it, if there's any action plans, and then if it's linked to a process. One of the things that's not here at the moment is a contributing factor, or is often referred to as a root cause. If there were any contributing factors linked here, they would also be visible in your risk structure. And then in this risk form, you can then also go and vote. Let me quickly do that for the next one, the previous one. So I'm opening up the lack of ability to attract and retain the staff. So the first one I voted within the vote by just simply clicking on those little drop down arrows. And then for this one, I am going to do it within this specific form then. So there it loads my vote, lack of ability to attract and retain new talent. And there you will see your inherent ratings, and I can go and select them from here as well. So to select them from here, you can then click on the little drop down arrows. And just before I do that, on the left-hand side, you will also be able to see other things that's linked here. So in this case, linked to this risk, we also have a key indicator. So if there were key indicators or incidents or whatever is linked to this risk, it will give you some access. Sorry, I do see of course, Murphy's Law hanging a little bit there, but let me just give it a moment there to go back. So if you are voting on your inherent ratings and your residual ratings, you can then click on the little drop down arrows here, and you can then go and select the values. So I've only included 4 risks in this vote. So I'll just quickly go and do them. So let's do that. Let's say a 3 by a 3. Inherent ratings, and then I'll go and select a 2 by 2. And you will see as I complete them, you will see those green little ticks to the left of them. Right. And then for this last one, I'll show you that, as you know, your residual ratings cannot be higher than your inherent ratings, because that means you're not mitigating the risk and you're doing something terribly wrong. So I've selected a 3 by 3 for my inherent ratings of my inherent impact and inherent likelihood. If I now try and go and select a 5 year, you will see it highlights it in red. So it's telling you something is not right here, something is wrong. And then if it's not obvious to you when you look at it, again, you can hover your mouse over it and you'll see it says the residual impact rating cannot be greater than the inherent impact rating. Right, so of course, oops, I've made a mistake. It stayed the same, nothing changed, because I can say maybe all my controls are ineffective, or there's no controls in place. So the ratings can stay the same, but residual cannot be higher than inherent. In this specific one, I've also added the option to attach a document. So this little arrow here is if you wanted to go and attach it. And the little speech bubble icon next to it is if you need to go and capture a control. Oh, not a control, a comment. So I'm going to say no controls in place to mitigate this risk. And that's why the rating has not changed. I can then click on confirm, and once a comment has been added, there will be a blue speech bubble. And if you hover your mouse over it, it will tell you the comment that has been added. If you want to view it or amend it, you can just simply click on it. All right, so once I've completed all of my risk ratings, you will see the submit button becomes available at the top. So I'm going to click on submit, and that will then submit the vote. So done and dusted. It then gives you a little bit of a summary of what you've done. There is an option to undo the submission. If you now see, oh no, that one should actually be a 3 and not a 4, you can go and undo the submission and quickly fix the mistake. Right, so that is then the RSA, where you vote on the risk ratings. I'm going to go back to my home page, and to do that, I click on the BarnOwl logo in the top left. I'm then going to open up my control self-assessment, so also referred to often as a RCSA, a CSA, a control self-assessment. And this will then give you a list of controls. Now, in a similar fashion that we've just rated the risks, we can then go and rate on the controls. I do want to mention it's only ratings that you can go and change. This is not a workshop. These are existing controls that's already in your registers, and you can go in here and rate on either the adequacy or the effectiveness, or both the adequacy and effectiveness. Just a reminder, adequacy is then the design of the control. Does the design mitigate the risk? And effectiveness is whether it's working or not. All right, so I have 4 controls I need to vote on. Again, you can go and open them up to get a little bit of context by clicking on the open button next to them. On the left, you will then see the risk that it's linked to. So this one is linked to multiple risks, and you can then go and select the rating. So I'm going to say adequate, and I could go, for my setup, you will see the effectiveness ratings from 1 to 3. But again, remember, this depends on your framework. So adequacy, I'll just go and say this is adequate. That one is partially effective. And similar to the risks that we've just rated, as soon as you go and complete the whole line, let's make that one ineffective. I'm just trying to give us a nice colorful options here. That one is effective, and this one, let's say partially again. All right. So as you continue, the little tick marks will appear to show you that you have voted on them. You will also see that you can go and attach evidence, so documents. Again, multiple documents can be attached, and all types of documents. You can also go and add a little bit of a comment. And then this option here is if you need to go and create an action plan. Again, if this will be a setup by the desktop user, and if they've if included that option, you can go and create an action plan from here. So I'll just quickly click on there, and you will then see action plans that can be linked, or that is linked to this control already. And again, you have these open buttons if you want to open them up and view a little bit more details in here. All right, so you will see at the top it says click an action plan below to link it to this control vote. Alternatively, click search action plan library to go and create a new one. So I've already said now that this one is ineffective control. So I can immediately go and say, all right, I want to create a new action plan, and then workshop to strengthen the control. Oh, there we go. All right. And of course, you can then go and complete all the normal action plan functions, which I'm not going to do now. I'm just going to put in a title there for us and save and close. So just showing you that if this option has been added, you can immediately go and link action plan to this vote, so to this control, to go and strengthen it. Okay. Once I am done and I've completed all my controls, I can again click on the submit button, which again will give me a little bit of a summary of what I've said. And then if I see a mistake I've made, I can click on undo submission. Right, so I'm going back to the home page. That is then our voting functionality, and like I said, what we call risk and control self-assessments. The next example that we're going to look at is surveys. The survey functionality is often used for our compliance module, and that is then where um, you answer in a fixed way. So when I say a fixed way, it's a drop-down arrow, and the drop-down arrow can contain the answers. This could be a yes, no, not applicable. It could be a rating scale, typically from 1 to 5, where 1 is poor and 5 is excellent. And that is then what a survey is. So it's a fixed answer that you go and get there, and it's only one answer. You can't select multiple options. Right, so our surveys are often used, like I said, with the compliance checklists, and this will automatically be generated if you import an act, so if you import a regulatory act, there can be questions already linked to that act, and they are then automatically converted into a survey, which is very handy and very powerful, that can be sent out to your organization. And just a additional side note is that currently we partner with Page Law, and we have over 120 South African acts available that can be purchased, and imported into the software that includes these type of surveys. Another way that surveys can be used is then for typically, like satisfaction or feedback surveys. And often used also by our internal audit teams, especially at the end of an audit, you want to get feedback to see how it went, maybe if you need to improve on certain things. So that's also an example I've created for us. And then we also have the GRC ready team that we've partnered with, where you can have a risk maturity survey. It's very powerful as well. It's arguably the most comprehensive risk and governance maturity assessment framework available. And it also includes, answer definitions for each maturity question. And you can obviously get a very nice consolidated report at the end to see that as well. Right, we did do a spotlight on it a few months back, and we will include the link to that if you also want a little bit more details on that GRC ready risk maturity functionality that you can make use of. All right, but let me quickly then look at the, let's see, that's the one I want to open up. So I've created like an audit feedback survey. And again, like I said, surveys are fixed answers, so there's drop-down arrows. In this survey, I have different categories and subcategories, and they are visible here on the left-hand side. So you will then see, I should have numbered these ones, but you can see overall performance, planning, reporting, and execution phases. So let's see there, under the execution phase, you will see there's a question that says, was adequate guidance provided during the interviews? And it's either a not applicable, no, or yes. And as soon as I then click on my answer there, it will also update my category that's being completed here on the left-hand side. So just take note, the fixed answers was not applicable, no, and yes. However, when I moved to overall performance, my scoring changed, but it's still a fixed option. I can't go and just put in my own answer. So the question is, was your overall evaluation of the internal audit team on this project? And I can then say it was good. You will also see there is an option to go and add a little comment if you wanted to. And I'm specifically now not going to answer question number 2, because I want you to just see that my progress bar on the left is only updated halfway. Let's quickly answer some of these questions as well. And yes, and then you will see that I still can't submit because there's still something missing here. So it really is a nice way to track, what is still outstanding. And then I can say, was the audit team professional? And I can go and say, very good. All right. So these are the type of questions that you can then set up, and then depending on the question, what your fixed answer is. So like I say, normally a scale from 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, or then like this one, yes, no, not applicable. Once you've completed the survey, again, you can click on the submit button there, and it will again allow you to reopen up the survey if you need to go and make a change. Just a comment there with the reopening of the survey, you can only reopen it if it's within the time frame. So for example, if I say the survey needs to be completed by the end of this week, which is now Friday the 27th, I can't go on Monday the 30th and reopen it because the time frame is then closed. All right, so you can still reopen it when it is within the specific time frame. I also have a example of a phase act that we have some questions linked to it. It is quite comprehensive, so I'm not going to answer all of the survey questions, but you will get a very good idea, of what the legislation then looks like. So phases are Financial Advisory and Intermediary Services Act. So you will then see your subcategories here, and you will then see this one is then on the Advisory Committee on Financial Service Providers, and you can then see, do you comply with the fact that there is an advisory committee on the financial services providers, which may on its own initiative or must at the request of the Minister of the Registrar. All right, so these are then the compliance questions. I'm quickly just going to select some options. So there's an abstain, no, and yes. So I'm just going to go and select some yeses here. I'll select a no there, abstain. And again, on the left, you can see the progress bar. So this one does have quite a few of questions. I'm just quickly scrolling down to just give you a bit of an idea. Here are some shorter questions here. So I can also go and add some here. And you can then just see all the different categories and subcategories. These can also be customized to your needs. So if you have an act and, for example, there are 100 questions, but you only want to focus on the top 10 key areas within that act, you can go and customize this. When I say you, I mean a licensed reached desktop user can, but anybody in the organization as part of the open license can come in and then answer these surveys. I'm now not going to answer all of this. It's obviously there's quite a few in here, but if I then go out, it will save my progress that I've made, and then if I go back into it, it will then keep my answers, and I can then continue until I'm ready to save. So that's our survey functionality. So don't forget about our GRC ready risk maturity option as well. The next one that I want to move on to is then our questionnaire functionality. Now, the questionnaire functionality is a more flexible option. And again, you do need a desktop license, a rich license to go and set this up. But again, an open license user can go and complete it. Now, questionnaires, I've created an audit satisfaction questionnaire here as well, is different ways of answering. Where surveys has, like, I almost want to say like a drop down arrow or a fixed way answer that needs to be selected. Here you have different options. So you could go and either just have a tick box, you could go and select multiple options. So let's look at some of the examples. The content is not relevant. I just want you to see the way that you can answer it. So these ones are like a yes, no options that you can go and select in here. And then if I look on the right hand side, you will see there's a different option there, like a tick box. So audit kept disrupting to operation of department to a minimum. So I can go and tick that as an option. Another field that could possibly be used is then where you can, okay, this is also a drop down, but here you can go and say audit reports were, and then you can go and select multiple options here. So we can go and say they were useful, and we can go and say they were presented clearly, and let's say it was informative, so I'm just showing you that there's different ways that you can go and answer questionnaires. So it could be drop down arrows, it could be tick boxes, it could be what we call, these are list views. We could also include a field to say, please type a paragraph on your experience with the audit team, and we can provide a field where you can go and type in text, for this. So it's more flexible in the way that the team can then answer these questions. The only little bit of a restriction here is, of course, then reporting, where it's more difficult or challenging to do consolidated reporting, for the simple reason that there could be open-ended questions, like a paragraph. And then if 10 people go and type their own little paragraph or their own story there, then you won't be able to consolidate that nicely. All right. But it is a very nice functionality. Again, that can be used, within all the different modules, so risk, compliance, and internal audit. I'm going to go back to the home page then. The next one that I'm going to touch on then are my key indicators. All right. Now, again, you do need a license, a desktop license. So you need to be a rich user to go and create these key indicators, but you do not have to be a desktop user to go and input the values. So you can now go and put the ball in the court of the business and say, these are your key indicators that you need to track, whether they are KPIs, KRIs, or KCIs. And you need to take accountability to go and update them. So they don't need licenses to go and update them. So on my homepage, you will see there under my key indicators are all the key indicators where I have been assigned as an owner, and the periods is still open. Now, what I mean with periods, that's the data period. The data periods can be closed. And we also had a spotlight on the key indicators and the new key indicator functionalities a while back, and we'll provide the link to that as well. So I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty details, but I will show you how to capture these values. You can always refer back to that key indicator spotlight recording as well if you want to know a little bit more about that. So at the moment, this staff loss one is a key indicator that's been assigned to me. It is a monthly key indicator. That's why when I look at the financial periods, you can see January, February, March, April, May, and we're only in June now. So that's why we can only go and complete up until June. You can also note that I do have values in here for January and February. But it's still here because the periods have not been closed for January and February. As soon as the period has been closed for Jan and Feb, then they will not be visible here on my homepage for me to action anymore. Right, but let me go in. I fell a little bit behind and I need to go and complete March and April. So again, you can open it up directly from here by clicking on that little open button next to March. It will open up my key indicator link form, and you will see it opens up on my input values. Now at the top, the key indicator library gives me a little bit of context of what I'm measuring. So this is the staff loss that's tracked monthly. It is linked to a risk, and it's called lack of ability to attract and retain new talent. I can see it's measured in percentages, and it takes the most recent value, and it is then monthly. It could be tracked, weekly, monthly, quarterly, biannually, annually. All of this can be set up by your administrators. This one is set up to be monthly. If I then scroll a little bit down, you will then see the existing input values, and I can then go and see this is then specifically for March that I'm going to input this. And to capture the value, there's a red button towards the right that says capture input value. I will click on that, and that will then open up my input value form. Now, by default, it will put in the start and end date of the period, which will now be the start of the month, which is now March in this case. You can change these input dates if you wanted to by clicking on these little calendars, but normally it is then, of course, for the full month. And then I can go and put in an input value, and this one is now measured in percentages, and I can then say March, it didn't go so well. We had a 3%, staff loss. I can put in a little bit of a description there. So if I want to put in the names of the people that left, or if I wanted to go and attach, the exit interviews or whatever I wanted to, I can attach a document. And then you will see there is a tick box that says, is this the last input value for the period? So if I tick that little tick box, it means that is done and dusted. I'm not going to make any further changes. It's been 3% and that's it. And then I can click on save and close at the top. The data that you saw there at the bottom is related to our analytics partner that we partner with, Arbutus. And that is then just additional analytic details that can get imported in there. All right. You will see that it says this period value has been finalized because I did tick that little tick box, and then I can click on save and close. Right. Once I've done that, I can then move over to the next key indicators. And I just want you to take note, March is not there anymore because I've closed that period. So I don't have to go in there again and update it. All right, let me quickly do one more under April. So I'll go in there. I click on the capture input values red block there at the bottom. I am going to say it actually went well. We had no staff losses, so a 0 is still a value. And I will click on save and close. Note, I did not close the period. And then if I go back to the home page, you will see that April is still there. So even though I did put in a value of 0 there, I didn't remove it here because I haven't closed that period. All right. So you can, as the user, go and close the period if you're done, and that's your final answer, I want to say. Or then, of course, the administrators of these key indicators can go and close a specific period. So if they say, listen, you have to put in your values before the end of each quarter. If you don't, then you can't go back and put it in there. Then it's like I almost want to say a strike against your name. So that is then that. I just want to quickly let you look at this last one. This last one is training interventions, and you will see that this is an annual key indicator. So I can go click on that open button, and you will see my date range changes. So it's from, okay, this is now a calendar year. My data periods are set up by calendar years, but it could then, of course, be your financial period year there. I can click on capture input values, and then I can go and say for the year, my value was 50. All right, and save and close. All right, so again, this is then only one value. So with obviously monthly, you'll have 12 input targets there, where with annually, you'll only have the one. I didn't close the period because I just wanted you to see it in here as well. So I kept on going back to my home page, but I just want to show you that on the left-hand side, under key indicators menu, you can also go to my key indicators. And you will then be able to see all the key indicators where you have been assigned as an owner. So again, the key indicators that you see here is then what we just saw on the home page as well. You could have also looked at, the key indicators by unit if you wanted to go to a specific unit. All my examples are now on Joburg HR, but the option is there if you need to go to and look at it per unit. And then the key indicator period values register on the left-hand side. You will see you do need to have a rich license to go and access that. Right, so from an open license perspective, you will go to My Key Indicators. Right, so I think everywhere where you see the word my in front, my action plans, my votes, my key indicators, that's where all the open license users have access to. Okay. All right, so that is then the key indicators and how to put in those input values. Yeah, if you can get buy-in from staff to go and complete this, it can really give you insights, into your risks, and help you to make informed decisions on, controls and action plans and your ratings. When these values have been amended, especially if you have red ones, that are below the thresholds that has been set up. And let me just quickly show you that. I'm just, while I am here, I'm just opening up one. If I go to target setup tab, I can then see for the months what my actual values were. And then these are the targets. So I want to actually have 1%, slightly under is 2%, and anything above 3 or more is then below the target setup. So you can also see the colors associated with that in here. But what I wanted to say is that there is a reassessment trigger that triggers the linked object. So if this is linked into a risk and your values have been set up, it can trigger a reassessment on the risk to tell you, listen, something changed in this key indicator. You need to go and relook at your risk ratings if they need to be adjusted. Of course, the same if it was linked to a control or then to an objective. Okay, so just remember reassessment triggers can be switched on. It is a switch in server management console, so you can decide based on your processes whether you want to switch it on or off. All right. The last thing that we're going to cover for today for the open licenses is my referred findings. So there again, you can see the word my, and this will then be all the findings that has been referred to you by the internal audit team. Now, again, on the home page, you will see them here in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can immediately open them up from here. You will also be able to access them from the audit menu on the left-hand side and then clicking on My Findings. So all of them are on the home page, or then you can use these system menus here on the left-hand side. So in my finding register, I can currently see that there are 3 findings that have been referred to me for comments. Right, now the first one I've already answered, or not answered, I've commented on it. And just note, these are like Excel columns, so you can just simply drag them bigger if you want to see more information there. All right. So there is the green bubble indicating to me that I've already added that comment. And if I hover my mouse over it, you will see I said I agree with the recommendation. Okay, I'm going to open up this finding by again clicking on this open button. The open button stays the same throughout the system. And you will then see the details of these findings. Right, so there you will be able to go and see the audit that this came from, what is it linked to, the actual finding title, which is then AR is not approved according to the SOP. And then you can see the priority of this. You can then see the finding status, so if it's been agreed or not, the finding ratings, categories, and then all the different finding fields. So you can get really the context of this. Again, remember your finding fields will be set up as per your internal audit framework, but typically it includes, things like the standard, the audit finding, impact, a root cause, and recommendations. And then there at the end is the management comments. That is then usually where management can then go and type their comments on the specific finding. Sometimes it is also opened up the field root cause because auditors, even though they do the investigations, they do think business, might have a little bit more insights, of what the actual root causes can be. So it depends on your setup and if you're going to allow them to add comments in that field as well. Right. So it's not just limited to management comments, but usually only management comments. Okay. All right, I'm not going to make changes to this one. So I'm just going to unload this one. I want to go into one that I haven't completed yet. So let me open up the second one. And you will then see that the title is AR does not follow procurement policy in terms of the number of quotes received. All right. Now I've read the details. I see what it should be. And then we can see we're not following the process. And I'm going to now type in my management comments. So I'm going to say process will be reviewed and documented. It will be signed off by Mr. X and published on the intranet. All right, so we're going to make sure everybody knows what the process is. We're going to document it. We'll get it reviewed and signed off, and then we're going to publish it on our intranet so that it is available for everybody to see. All right, so that's our comment that we've made on this specific finding. And then you can then go and say, if you are done and you're not going to make any further changes to this, you can then click there is completed under my referral status. And you will then be able to go and see that when you save this, the date completed will automatically be completed, which will be today's date, because this is then when I ticked that little tick box. If you're not sure yet, and you might want to just discuss this with one or two other people, you can already add your comment, but you don't have to mark it then as completed. Right, but I've ticked it then as completed, and then I can go and click on complete and save at the top. It will then save that successfully, and I can then go out of this form then. All right, again, once you have added your management comment, you will see there's a little green bubble there. And I just want to show you, if you click on it, you will also see that it opens up the little window to just give you the details of it. Right, so you can click on it to see the details. And because I said it is completed, you will also see there is a little tick mark with today's date, then the date that I've completed my comment there. So this is really a very nice functionality. Of course, action plans could have been linked onto this, and you would then be able to see any linked action plans as well, based on the action plan functionality that we've showed in the beginning of this session. So, you can then go and update the status and the percentage complete, as well as the progress notes. So like I said, action plans can be linked to almost anything. Let me just go and do one final example here. So you would open up the finding here. You will get all the relevant information, the audit details, and we can say incorrect barcode assigned to assets. And then I can go and say, all right, we're going to do, we agree with the recommendation, QA and verification process to ensure this is correct. All right. So you can then go and add that, and I can then click on complete and save at the top. Again, I just want to mention that we did have a detailed spotlight on this new finding functionality a few months ago. And if you want to go and look at that, it's also about an hour long. Please then you can just, again, on our website, the recordings are there with the write-ups. And if you have any questions, because this is a new functionality, also feel free to, of course, just chat to your account manager, or then just log a ticket with support, and we will gladly assist you. All right, so that is then all the functionalities that the open users can do. So I'm quickly going to just go back to my slides just with some closing comments. So if you'll just quickly give me one moment. So I am aware I'm not sharing at the moment. I just want to get to the correct slide, and then I will share again. All right. So just in summary, we have looked at the BarnOwl web-based portal then, and this really embeds, GRC within your organization and gets users, to take accountability. It's not your risk register as a champion, it is business's risk register, and they need to take accountability, and update their actions. You can gather information very easily with risks and control self-assessments, as well as surveys and questionnaires. It's really a nice function, to quickly and easily, in a user-friendly manner, gather information and just get a little bit of insight, into what people are thinking on specific topics. Then, of course, key indicators, that's really what drives risk management, and brings it to life. So if you can start getting business to start completing these values, um, not just as a tick box exercise, but really as an early warning system. Key indicators are so powerful. And of course, then with the new functions with audit findings, to track the progress on these findings, that is really, really a powerful function in the system. All right, so this is just then a summary of what we've covered then today. And if you embed this, you can get operational effectiveness, a cultural change and engagement within GRC and risk management in your organization. You can really get business outcomes to assist business with resilience and decision making, and compliance. And then, of course, you can also get audit and assurance, so it can result in faster remediation, less or fewer audit findings, and then, of course, giving stakeholders more confidence in how things are managed. All right. You will also see in the slides that we have some useful links here. So just as a summary then, we've had spotlights in the past on version 11, which is now the new web interface. If you're not upgraded to version 11 yet, please urgently upgrade. Then we've also had spotlights on voting functionality, key indicators, my finding registers, GRC ready, and also Power BI reports. The outputs of this, you do need a license to see these reports, of course, but all of the topics that we've covered can give you very nice Power BI reports, and we have had a session on that as well, so you can just look at those spotlight recordings as well. And then, I think just as some closing comments then, just before I open up the floor for any questions, I haven't monitored the chat box, but I will just see if there is anything as well. But then just from a support perspective, what the process is. If you have any questions after this session, or you're listening to the recording afterwards, please log a ticket with our support desk. I think you all know by now it's support@barnowl.co.za. You're welcome to, of course, then include your account manager, and we will gladly assist you, on any questions that you have. Or if you can't find these spotlights on the website, just give us a shout. We'll quickly send you the link. Yeah. And I think with that, I will then ask Cheryl to allow everybody to then unmute their microphones. So if you then have a question, you can then just raise your hand and we will then take it from there. Thank you. Michael, you are first. You're welcome to unmute and you can then go for it.
I just want to find out the web license and the open license. The difference, or because I know I'm also administrator on our side for BarnOwl. So currently the web users, we physically load them. They're not yet loaded to the Active Directory. The functionalities that the basic web user has, and the light user, I mean the open user, what's the difference going to be? Is it something that we have to decide on how we configure it, or is it, how does it come out in, how does the
Oh,
license?
great. Thanks, Michael. A very important question. So the difference between a light user and open license user is light users have more capabilities. And what I mean with that is they can capture and amend data. In other words, they can go and
Yeah.
capture a risk. They can go and capture a control. They can go and capture an action plan, and they can amend the existing data. So they can go and amend and edit the risks, not just ratings, from a voting perspective, but the description or the category. They can go and add new controls. They can go and add new key indicators, capture incidents. So I want to say they have the capability to capture and amend, where open licenses can only basically do what we've done in this session. So that's then the main difference between the two license types. And then just to add on to that, so the difference between a light license and then a rich license is the rich license is again a lot for administrative tasks, a lot of reporting and registers are in there, and then the normal rich functionality. We do have the link to the licensing as well. So if you want to read up on that a little bit. Oh, and I see, thank you. Jonathan has also posted the link more on the differences on the licensing options. So you can also go and look at that. But does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, thank you. Just a one and a further question with the open licenses. Does the organization ourselves, maybe, do we request you to set it up for us in that way, or is it something that we on our side on IT? Uh, how do the people access the open license, if I may ask that way, for say for
All
our
right.
organization?
Yes. So most of the time for the organizations, when we did your initial take on, we import all the users from your Active Directory. And usually it is set up to then update every 24 hours. If
Okay.
you do feel that the new users, let's say there's new employees and you do see that they might not be in BarnOwl, we can assist you to just check, if that automatic update is running in the background to import from your Active Directory. Remember I mentioned T's and C's apply. So
Yeah.
these open license users, they need to have a valid email address, So
Okay.
like
Okay.
often, for example, a cleaner might not have a
Yeah.
email address, and then they can't, have access to it. But yeah, the T's and C's is then on your domain and then with the email address. So you can just log a call if you feel that the new users are not there. And then with our latest version 11.6.1, our licensing structure has changed a little bit and we've enhanced it. So that means automatically everybody that's imported from Active Directory is then assigned to an open license. So it makes it much easier. In the past, you sort of had to manually go and add them to a group or give them the permissions. But with the latest version, automatically everybody has these open licenses.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Pleasure. I see there's another one. Let me quickly see. Mongezi, go for it.
Hello, ma'am. Sorry, I was just checking the panel access of the risk champions. Should those people be able to access, or else how are they being added onto BarnOwl as risk champions, so that they can have access to the part where they update their risk registers and all that? And the open, is it open access? Yes,
Mm.
that one.
All right.
I'm not sure how. Yes, okay.
Yeah. So the light users has to be the risk champions that you're referring to. They need to be belong to that specific risk champion group because they do need that license then to then, of course, then load their risks and make amendments to the controls and actions and so forth. And that will be done by the administrators in the admin module. And the light licenses again is with the latest version, everybody automatically has that access. You without having to assign them to a group. If you're still on one of the older versions, you might have to manually go and give them those permissions. But my proposal would be, just to make it easier and of course get all the advantages of the latest version, is to then just upgrade to version 11.6.1, which is our current latest released version. And then what we also recommend, Mongezi, is that you guys distribute the URL, that goes into the web interface, and ask the guys to just create a bookmark or a shortcut on their desktops, to go in there. So even though there could be email notifications that get sent out for action plans or votes or those type of things, and then they could click on the URL, people are these days, they hesitant to click on links in emails, with all the phishing and all types of things. So my suggestion is that they create this BarnOwl shortcut on their desktops, and then they can go in there at any point in time and see if there's actions or findings or votes that they need to complete. And if you, as an administrator, you can get that URL from Server Management Console. And if you're struggling to get it, just contact support or admin, your service, your account manager, and we can just guide you on how to get that URL, that link. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Thanks. Right. Right, I do see there's a question in the chat. Let me just quickly see that. When populating findings or action plans, at what stage of capturing by a fully licensed user do the open user see the information? All right. Leslie, thank you for the question. So the question is then, they want to know then when a rich license captures the information like an action plan or a finding, when does the open license user see it on their side? And the first thing is, as soon as you add them as an owner to an action plan, and you click on save and close, then they will be able to see it within a few seconds. It's a live system. So that is then, I want to say, yeah, they need to be added as an owner. From a finding perspective, they could be added as a owner, but there's an option then where you say, okay, now refer this to these owners. So the auditor will then decide when those findings are referred. So I want to say not at the point in time necessarily when the finding is captured. Maybe you capture the finding last week Monday, but you're now going to work on the details. I want to say the flesh and the body of this finding. So only once you've completed all the information, and then you can have an option to go and refer it to those owners then, and that's then when it will be visible on their side. I hope that answers your question, Leslie, but yeah, they need to be added as owners. And just, sorry, maybe just a follow-up comment on that is for votes. There's T's and C's. The T's and C's there is they need to be assigned as an owner. They need to, the vote or survey needs to be active. And third thing is then it needs to fall within the date range. So if you only go, if you make them an owner, you make it active, but you say the start date is only on the 7th of July, then they will only then see it on the 7th of July. So that's just from a voting survey and questionnaire perspective. I see there's a hand. Mark, go for it. No difficult questions, Mark.
No, I'll try not. I've actually got two questions actually. On the questionnaire functionality, now I'm playing with the idea of using the questionnaire functionality. It's almost like a request for information type function. Say if I ask them in there, could you send a latest copy of your policy, for example, and then they attach the policy in the questionnaire. Can we get that PDF or whatever they've attached into an audit file?
At the moment, not, Mark. So the attachment is then only attached to that questionnaire. So if you want to bring it into the audit file, then you'll basically have to save it on your machine and then go and attach it to where you want it attached within that audit project then.
Okay. No, okay, thanks. Also, on the findings part, can you customize that, or does it, for example, I see that they have the function status are fine, they either agree or disagree to it. But can you, for example, have other questions there for them when they look at the file? Say, for example, do you agree with the recommendations? Yes, no. Can
So
they
at
customize like that?
So at this stage, Mark, the customization for the findings is then only on the finding fields where you would then go and, either open that. And if you recall from the internal audit setup, the project setup, there is a tick box that says import and export, export and import. And as soon as you have that import ticked, it means it will allow them to amend it. But at this stage, it's not available for other things like standard fields, like, for example, the finding rating or status or that. So at this stage, it's only the finding fields.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
But it's worth investigating it, Mark. So if you want to, if you want to send me a use case, on why you would like to do that, we can always look at it and see if it would be valuable for the product, and we can then definitely look at it further. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering because our methodology, we ask them for agreement to finding and recommendation. I just like that question to be separate in that function.
I remember, I because I'm familiar with your environment, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But we can always log it as a feature suggestion. Of course, it will follow the normal feature suggestion internal processes that we have. But you can definitely just send me a mail on that, and we can look at it further. Thanks.
Thanks, Lizelle.
Thanks, Mark. Right, I don't see any other hands. I just want to quickly scan through the chat box. I do see there were a few things in here. Please just let me know if I have missed a specific question and it hasn't been answered by my team yet. Then I think the easiest way would then just to quickly just raise your hand and unmute your microphone if the question has been missed. All right. I don't see any further hands and I don't see any further questions. With that, I am then going to conclude this session. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining the session. Thank you for being patient with me when I had a little bit of a hiccup there. Luckily, I had a plan B for us in place. And you must then have a lovely day further and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you. Bye-bye.